So thank you guys all for being here. To our fans, my sisters and I want to extend our heartfelt gratitude for your loyalty and support, as always, but particularly this season. You're right to be frustrated with how the latter part of our season went. I'm pissed. We are all pissed. Every season is unique, and this season really was a tale of two seasons in one. We were all encouraged by our first half. We experienced a lot of progress, which gives us optimism for the future and the direction we are heading as a team. Then, adversity struck. But no matter what the circumstances are, we have to be able to find a way to win and finish games. Even though we didn't get the results we expected, I'm confident in what we're building and how we're building it. So with that said, Chris will continue as our general manager, and Shane will continue as our head coach for this next season. We have been very clear with Chris and Shane that giving them another opportunity means that the sense of urgency for them to deliver and perform has never been higher. Chris and Shane are both capable of facing this challenge head on and finding a way to achieve the results that our fans deserve, which is winning games, getting to the postseason, and ultimately winning championships. Ultimately, though, I am responsible for our team's performance and the promise that we made to be the best. Our extremely disappointing second half of the season wasn't up to our standard, and that falls on me. At the same time, there were moments during the season that gave me reason to believe that we can achieve sustained success under Chris and Shane's leadership. Good design is never done, and as with every offseason, we will work diligently to improve and find a way to win. You guys, I will take questions now.
Carlie, Mike Chappell, Fox 59. You say the sense of urgency. Does it come with, an implied playoffs or else, or how did you, what do you expect for the end result to be this year?
So I think a sense of urgency, yes, is certainly to win and finish games. I think we had a lot of close games this season, and some of it came down to just being able to finish.
So it's not necessarily playoffs. It's well, I guess.
Every year we're going for the playoffs. Does that make sense?
Hi, Carlie. Stephen Holder, ESPN.com. How did you sort of weigh this year and the complexities involved in that versus the entire body of work, whether it be Chris and Shane and both of them together?
Which complexities do you mean?
Words, like there's a decision. The decision, it sounds like, was based largely upon how this year played out. But there's also just an overall, Chris's case, 9 years of track record and that kind of thing. So how much does any of that play into this versus just the results this year specifically?
So I would say, Stephen, it all plays into the decision that we make today. I don't think it's an either or, but I think what we saw as far as the progress, and Shane was able to adapt and change the way, as far as how he works on the roster and assembles the roster, and we believe that he is capable of replicating that next season.
Carlie, James Boyd, The Athletic. Where do you think this team is when it comes to being ready to contend for a championship, considering you were 8-2 atop the AFC, but also you finished 8-9 and had injuries, things of that nature?
So I think that based on what we had, like I said, the tale of two seasons, what we saw in that first half is we were in a record way dominating offensively. And I think with a lot of the roster moves we made, I think we just have to be able to face adversity better. And I believe in the team.
I hope to stay healthier next year, or is that?
Well, I think the hope is always to stay healthier, but I think it's also about 47 seconds left in Seattle. It's about, like I said, finishing games. Kansas City, you lose your starting quarterback. That's on Chris and Shane to be able to find a way to finish those games because injuries are never an excuse. Every NFL club is dealing with injuries.
Carlie, hey, Greg Doyle with Indy Star. Everything about this year for you is new, every experience. Should this be your first time dealing with what you're about to deal with? Maybe you already have fan anger. How does that roll off your back, or does it roll off your back? Just knowing they wanted pink slips, right or wrong, that's what they wanted.
So how does fan anger roll off my back? Is that what you said?
Yeah. How are you responding? How are you feeling about the fact that the whole city seems to want one thing and you've done something else? How are you gonna handle that?
Well, like I said, I'm pissed, and I totally get that they're pissed. I want to validate them, and we hear them. It was that's not the way we ever want to end a season, and I think as we evaluate it, we're going right back to work to make sure that we find a way to finish and win games next year, and ultimately get us into the postseason.
Carlie, Kevin Bellin, 75 fan. How much did, I guess, the historical nature of the Sauce trade factor into Chris and Shane being retained?
What do you mean by historic nature?
You don't give up 2 first-round picks very often. How much did that say, because we made this trade, we're committing to them and committing to, I guess, Daniel Jones past 2026?
Well, it's certainly one of the components out of many that we look at, and like we said, Chris was able to. That wasn't something he'd necessarily done before, and I think we were able to see some progress there. And like we said, we faced some adversity, and we just have to find a way to overcome that adversity.
Was there any hesitancy in greenlighting that trade?
No.
James Boyd, The Athletic. Carlie, when you look at Chris in particular, I know you said you have confidence in him to get it done, but where does that confidence stem from when, given his entire resume, there hasn't been a lot of success? 2 playoff appearances, 1 playoff win, 0 AFC Cup titles.
So that's similar to what I think Steven said, or asked me, which I think is, do you look at 1 year, or do you look at 9 years? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I guess. How much do you look at the entire resume, and what do you look at within those 9 years to give you confidence that a 10th year, a 10th try will be the year that it goes better for this franchise?
Well, I think you have to look at both, and then obviously I think what Chris knows and Shane knows is that the sense of urgency this year has never been higher to be able to win and finish games. I think we made a lot of progress, but we've got to be able to win and finish games.
How do you think that message has been received by them, or what have you done to maybe express that to them that it's never been higher than this upcoming year versus even last year, saying it was pretty high?
Well, the sense of urgency is higher than last year.
Carlie, the 7-game losing streak, that's obviously way too long. At any point in there, how much did that give you pause, if at all, that you couldn't find a way out of that stretch? Circumstances being what they were, obviously.
In a pause in what regard?
To give you pause to continue saying, because a 7-game losing streak that's not something you ever want to have to entertain, right? So did that give you any pause before you decided to move forward again?
Well, I think you have to look at, like I said, you have to look at the body of the work over someone's career. You have to look at the season, but you also have to look at, when you're evaluating someone, you have to look at the context of the opportunity. And I think, like I said, what we saw, even though, a losing streak of that nature sucks, to be honest, and it's horrible, and I don't think anyone's going to say, yay, that's good. But I think you have to look at where Chris improved, and that we believe that he's going to be able to replicate kind of what we were on our way to doing before we kind of went through that losing streak.
And one thing to elaborate, you've mentioned a couple times Chris's approach, maybe change in approach. He was obviously more aggressive in free agency. Are those the kinds of things you're referring to there? And is that kind of in line with your vision to some degree? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, I think the biggest one is, the standard hasn't been the standard. The sense of urgency has to be higher, because it has been a good deal of time. And we have to be able to find a way to win and finish games and face adversity better. And certainly there are other, there'll be ongoing discussions with Chris and Shane about what we need to do to adjust and adapt.
Joel Erickson, Indianapolis Star. What's your evaluation of the quarterback position?
So I would say I'm going to stay in my lane on evaluating the quarterback position, but I think, that was something that was, I think, a great decision. It's really unfortunate with what happened with Daniel. And what we saw, though, was really promising, and I think it's up to Chris and Shane what they want to do.
Carlie, it sounds like you did wake up Saturday morning and said, this is what we're going to do. You've known for quite a while that this was the course you're going to take?
So,
With Shane and Chris?
So I think we're always evaluating, on a week-to-week basis. I mean, I have a great relationship with both of them, but you're able to see week to week how things are and are they progressing. And I think we made the decision last week.
You told them that you guys, you're my guys going forward.
Yes.
One other question, you talked about the quarterbacks. Is there a place for Anthony Richardson here?
Like I said, I think I'm going to stay in my lane on that one. But it's I feel horrible for Anthony with the injuries that he's had to endure, and I know Chris and Shane are going to do the right thing.
Carlie, Chris and Shane as tied together,
What do you mean by tied together?
In that if one goes, both goes, even though they were hired 2017, 2023.
I think that's probably a question for the same day next year.
Carlie, James Boyd, The Athletic. I know Chris is going into the final year of his contract. Do you have plans on, or do you and the franchise have plans on extending him?
We haven't discussed that yet.
Carlie, Anthony Calhoun wished to be, you live this in your meetings, your practices, been around both of those guys. What gives you the confidence that they can deliver for you next year?
With Chris and Shane?
Yeah.
Well, so like I said, Anthony, I think we saw a lot of progress. Chris was able to, adapt and adjust his approach. I think we saw a lot of improvement there, obviously, before we faced some of the adversity of the latter half of this season. And, Shane's a really young, talented head coach. And I know he'll be the first to admit, and I think everyone in our building, we're always trying to learn and grow. And I think what we saw, though, was we believe that they can replicate what we started off doing, and the sense of urgency to do that has never been higher, and we believe they can do it next season.
Nathan Brown, the Indy Star. I know you said earlier this summer when someone asked if this 2025 season was going to be a playoff or bust year for Shane and Chris, that didn't have a crystal ball, and injuries could certainly play a factor in that. We saw that they certainly did in lots of ways. Would you say that 2026 is a playoff or bust year for the two of them, or either one of them?
Well, I don't want to be redundant and give you the crystal ball answer again, but I would say, we're going to have to look at how things go through the whole season. But we really believe this decision is based on, we wouldn't make it if we didn't think that Chris and Shane weren't capable of replicating what we saw in the first half of our season and being able to finish through the entire season next year.
You said that this was a decision that you reached a week or so ago. Can you take us through, I don't know, how difficult this decision was? I know you've talked about what this team has gone through over the latter half of the season, the injuries, the losing streak. How difficult of the decision was it ultimately to decide to bring Shane and Chris back?
Well, it's a big decision, and we take it really seriously. And I think it's something that you have to, like I said before, a football team's a complex organism. You have to look at multiple different factors, and you also have to look at, when you're evaluating someone, you have, based on the context of the opportunity, meaning, there are things that happen that are out of your control. And I think that's part of what goes into it. But it wasn't a decision that we took lightly. My sisters and I, like I said, we promised to be the best, and that's what we're never going to stop working to do that.
Well, I
Greg
want to
Doyle
get-
again from the Indy Star. Do you expect, you'll see changes on the coaching staff, coordinators?
Greg, that's probably too, I think Monday, the first decision was kind of deciding what we were going to do at the top, but I know every year we will evaluate all those positions and make sure that, that we're in a position to succeed in all those positions.
You talked about how the important position you and your sisters were mulling this over. Did you ever think about what would Dad do? Did you ever have?
Of course.
I wondered. I don't know if you have talks with him or whatever, but how does that play into it? Because he thrived on stability until it wasn't prudent. How did that work? If it did at all.
Well, I think my sisters and I feel very blessed to be able to have gone through and see how he handled a lot of these decisions. And ultimately, I think our job is, we have more information than anyone else is going to have. But I think my dad would always say, regardless of what, you have to make the right decision, that when you know what's right, it's right, and you just that's the direction that you've got to go. But I'm very grateful. I think, whereas my dad he wasn't fortunate to have siblings that, that you can trust and confide in and really discuss and really make sure you're making the right decision. Because I think you've got to look at all these different perspectives and take those into account too, because it's a big decision to make.
Carlie, you mentioned earlier that, the buck stops with you and your sisters obviously being at the top. We understand, you don't take losing any harder now just because, your father is no longer with us, but you become a little more the face of this, right? Have you processed that at all? People who are angry, those people who you said are pissed, well, they're pissed at you in part, right? So, I don't know, is there any processing that comes along with that? Is that different? I don't know.
Processing through, you mean?
Just taking that in. I don't know. It's probably a stupid question, but.
No, yes, that's why I want our fans to know I hear them. I'm pissed, we're pissed. It's not good enough. It's not up to the standard of what, and it would be, I wish I could hear what my dad would have said. Or tweeted potentially, but no, certainly I think, we have a great culture in place. We have guys that care so much, and our family, we've continued what our dad's always done. We have great relationships with our players. They played their asses off this year. But at the end of the day, our fans, we understand and we want to validate that. And, that's, like I said, the sense of urgency to deliver on what we promised is, the sense of urgency goes for us too. It could not be higher.
Probably the finances of, if you make a move, you're paying multiple GMs, multiple head coaches. Did that play a factor into this at all?
We're willing to do whatever we need to do to finish games and win, and to get back to the standard that our franchise should be upholding.
Carlie, James Boyd, The Athletic. Why do you think this team has been unable to finish games, not just this season, but in years past? Since the last playoff appearance in 2020, December, January, this team has not won a lot of games, my friend.
Well, since we're sitting here Monday at the end of the season, I think that's what I said was, that's Chris and Shane's first priority, is to, evaluate that and lay out for us how they're going to resolve that and be able to finish and win games. Because we know we're capable of that. We saw that in the first half of the season.
Carlie, Jake Arthur, Roundtable Sports. With the sense of urgency to get better now, basically, Daniel Jones, Alec Pierce, both free agents. Is there a level of confidence that you guys can bring them back?
I think I know Chris will do what's right for the franchise. Daniel's a great kid. He's super talented. He's a hard worker. He fits our culture. Alex the same way, and I know Chris will make the right decision for what puts our roster in the best position to succeed.
Carlie, when you hear 11 years, no division title, 8 years, no playoff win, 5 years, no playoff appearance, what goes through your mind?
Well, Kevin, like I said, I'm pissed about that, but also, I think that's where the sense of urgency has to go up, because I think especially this year we got a lot, we solved a lot of the issues on our roster, and I think that's what I think is really encouraging about next season, is that we are in a position, we need to learn how to face adversity better, but we're in a great position to succeed.
Given those droughts, do you worry about fan apathy at all?
I mean, of course, and I don't blame them. I mean, that's a long time, but I'm excited to give them what they deserve next season to prove that we can deliver on our promise.
Nathan Brown in Star. I know you mentioned earlier in your opening statement, you kind of see this season as almost a tale of two seasons, that 8-2 start and that 0-7 finish. By bringing Shane and Chris back, would you say that that you've weighted the good maybe slightly more than the bad? And if that's an accurate way to portray that, why would you say that was the case?
I wouldn't necessarily say weighted the good more than the bad. Certainly the bad sticks, if you're going to go with recency bias, that sticks more in your mind right now. But I think you have to look at the whole body of work and what pieces we were able to put in place. And I think, like I said, we've got to be able to handle adversity better and still find a way to win, because injuries are never an excuse, not in this league.
Okay, let's go last one here.
James Boyd, The Athletic. I know you mentioned injuries and things of that nature. And the pieces you're able to find, one of them was Daniel for at least half of the season. I know you said that's a Chris decision whether he's brought back or not, but what do you think he gave this team, and how much confidence do you have in him if he is the quarterback that you retain?
Well, so I think Daniel came in here, he knew he had something to prove, and I think he did a great job. He's a great teammate, building relationships with other players. I think he gave a lot of the players on our team hope that we can, like you guys said, we've had a drought, and we were able to really show that we're able to execute at a high level on the field. I think it was, like I said before, it was promising what he was able to do.
Does the Achilles injury make you hesitant at all, just knowing that is a devastating injury? He has some injury history before that.
I don't know if it's appropriate to comment on his injury.
All right. Okay, thanks.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Cool.